Welcome back, fellow jazz bums. We are doing Record of the Week, which is going to be Horace Silver's 6 Pieces of Silver. Before we get into it, remember to like and subscribe. And what's really important, if you're into this Record of the Week, join our Discord. That's where we announce what the Record of the Week is. It's usually on Saturday or Sunday. We'll select something, and then for that week, you can have an opportunity to listen to it. And then on Fridays, we'll discuss it. So if you want to know what that is, what the Record of the Week is, please join the Discord. That link is in the description below. And we also live stream on Fridays. We're actually recording this on the Friday. So come and hang out with us there as well. It's really fun. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to Felipe to get us started.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Okay, so Record of the Week number 3 first. We made it to the third one. So hopefully, I think it's a good signal, that a good sign that we're going to continue with it. So this is a musician that, going on the same tag they were earlier, he's not underrated, but I think to a certain extent he's underappreciated given his peers back then at the same time. And we're talking about Horace Silver, right?
Agreed.
He was born in 1914 in Connecticut, your neighbor, Mike.
Yep.
And then he died in 2014, reportedly of Alzheimer's disease. So he lived for 86 years. Had a quite prolific and long career and very influential, if not crucial, I think, for the development of jazz. So he started playing big bands, school. He started with a saxophone, actually. Then he moved to piano. And he was first discovered by Stan Getz in the 40s. So he started playing with the Stan Getz Quartet. He got a little traction. He was playing. And then he goes to New York. And then he meets Art Blakey. And then they start doing this big ensemble that gets a little smaller, becomes a quintet, which is that they call themselves the Messengers. There was no Jazz Messengers or Art Blakey Jazz Messengers, Horace. They were just the Jazz Messengers. Yeah. And I think that's a quite an important thing, because it's a transition period, right? We're going from bebop to hard bop, and those guys are starting to establish some hard bop parameters there. The way of playing, less complicated songs, more towards the blues and the gospel. No wonder the title Messengers. And they would call themselves Messengers because if they were not, they realized if they didn't have the audience like clapping or stomping or going along, they say, oh, we're not relaying our message, so we got to get better at this. That's how they would go every night, their approach. So this is a very early example of this iteration here. So their most classical and first iteration had Doug Watkins bass, Horace Silver, Art Blakey, Kenny Dorham, and Hank Mobley. Kenny Dorham eventually left after not so long, and then he was replaced by Donald Byrd, which didn't last that long as well. But that was a classic formation there. This is one of their early recordings. The Jazz Messengers on Columbia. That's a 6i.
Oh, wow. Promo copy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
And then he goes to Blue Note. He records some 7 inches, 10 inches on Blue Note as a Horace Silver trio only. Then he goes to some Messengers work. And then he's very prolific in the early 1500s. And 1500s up to 1518, he's got this one here. Horace Silver and the Jazz Messengers. Very important record. Again, Messengers, the whole gospel inspiration, and a track that really defined things, The Preacher, right? Mm-hmm. So The Preacher is quite an important. Actually, Francis Wolff Reed Miles did not want the song on the record. They thought it was not like complicated, intricate enough to be there. But he broke through, gave a really nice new breath to the label. The label kind of became bigger at this point. The song became very popular. Yeah. And if you look,
do you mean Alfred Lyon?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So at this point, Blue Note starts getting more popular. Starting more records. And if you notice from like the early 1520s titles, they stopped doing too many comps and re-releases of their 10-inch era. And that's when you start having more new artists and new recordings. Then you have 1530, Utah Hip, and then you have way more Hank Mobley records, Lee Morgan, and things start evolving from there.
Yeah.
So Horace, shortly after that, he breaks up with the Messengers. He was kind of reluctant at first in going on a solo career, so he goes. He started playing a lot of sidemen, especially with Hank Mobley in those early years. So and then he finds a quintet. He didn't want to be a leader. He didn't want the burden of being a leader. That was his deal. So he finally forms his quintet, and then there's a few changes here and there. And then in 1959, he released this record here with his first classic quintet.
Yeah.
Consisting of Junior Cook and Blue Mitchell, right?
Yeah.
Louis Hayes drums, a very young Louis Hayes, and Eugene Taylor on bass. They record many successful records, including this guy here, which is a great one.
Horoscope. Yes.
Yeah, Horoscope. The Tokyo Quintet, the Tokyo Blues.
Yep.
And perhaps his most popular, one of his best records, Song for My Father, right? Which has one of the most signature sounds of Horace. And this is actually a transition record. This record already has the new quintet, half and half. The new quintet would have Joe Henderson and Carmel Jones, which on the next record will be replaced by sorry, the name escaped. Woody Shaw, sorry.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, Woody Shaw played briefly with the. I think that was actually his first Blue Note record. Was the Horace Silver Quintet, which goes to show his father was from the Cape Verdean Islands, belong from Portugal. So he was always very inspired by folk music, foreign music, Cape Verdean traditional. You hear a lot of that influence on his playing. And he was not a guy, I listened to some of his interviews, he was not a guy too much into classical music like others. He liked pop music, he liked gospel, he liked the blues. He was always looking around to see what was going on newly in there. And I think, for example, Tokyo Blues was inspired by a trip to Japan and so on. So the record we're talking about today, it's called Six Pieces of Silver. It's 1539. I think it was his first, one of his early iterations of his quintet.
Yes.
This record is quite interesting, important. It has a different lineup. Again, he has Donald Byrd and Hank Mobley, Doug Watkins bass, and Louis Hayes drum. So it's kind of a transition thing from Messengers to his own thing. He was trying to find his quintet.
Yeah, and I just want to take a beat on that because I just want to talk about this because one of the things that I've noticed is, and Felipe, you alluded to this earlier, is that Horace Silver is not necessarily held in the same regard. His records they're not as valuable, and probably because they sold so much, there's so many more available. But the sidemen on this are Hank Mobley, right? Like this is early 1500s with Hank Mobley as sideman. And trumpet player is who's playing trumpet on this? And Donald Byrd.
Donald Byrd, yes.
So and then Horace Silver, who in his compositions, I feel like, well, I mean, we'll get into the record, but he lets these guys lead. Like he gives them the space. Like he comes in third solo all the time. Like
exactly.
This is not some showy guy. Like he's composing for the talent that he has. And the talent that he has is Hank Mobley and Donald Byrd, early 1500s. So I just want to state that because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like what we were talking about underappreciated earlier, there is a little bit of that with and I could be, my perception could be wrong, but my perception is underappreciated.
Yeah, I think just one more last thing here, and then we can go over.
Okay.
I think one thing that kind of depreciates in a sense is that his late career is not so well regarded as his early career, which was a very personal choice. He wanted to go on a more spiritual side. He had his own label, which failed, but he was pursuing other things. And if you look at some of his 70s stuff, I sent some videos to you guys. He had a killer band in the 70s, doing some really, really good music. So Six Pieces of Silver, Curiosity, is the last title on the Lexington label, 1539. 1540, the one that comes right after that, is the Hank Mobley Quintet.
Okay.
Hank Mobley, and Donald Burge. So
Okay.
kind of same lineup almost. He has one of the most important tracks by Horace Silver ever, which is Senor Blues.
Yes.
Which is a blues song, but also with a Latin influence. The intro to that song is just killer. And I think highlights to me the best of his playing, which is very short, quick phrases, but very melodic at the same time. And being a saxophone player too, to me, they remind me of horn instruments being played on the piano. He had some hints of horns there to me. That's what I get from him. And he's probably the main foundation. I mean, people talk a lot about Art Blakey, but I think he was the guy that kickstarted everything.
Yeah,
composition-wise.
If you look at his group, just to jump off on that, we mentioned he's playing with Mobley and Bird early, right? That's 56, this album. 57, he swaps in Art Farmer for Bird, Art Farmer and Mobley. And then you were talking, is it Junior Cook and Blue Mitchell?
Yes.
I mean, he's like he's finding his talent. And all these players are, become leaders. So, I mean, I know Art Blakey does, is in terms of talent acquisition is probably, at one of the top levels. But I think Horace Silver is all his quintet. Horace Silver's quintet is also a ground to find new talent and elevate them as well.
Well, I think that's like he pointed out there. I felt that Art Blakey's The Messengers and Horace Silver, and their jazz messengers were almost in parallel to each other. And when I was listening to it this week, and it's like, oh my God, I was listening to a Art Blakey session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, how tight the arrangements were and how in sync. Of course, I always gravitate to Senor Blues. It's just anytime I think about Horace Silver, that Senor Blues is the one that comes to mind.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just There's a video of them performing that on YouTube. If you could find it, it's really well worth searching out to hear them. Of course, then I listened to it on Apple Music while I was driving, and I listened to it from the CD version, which had the alternate take to Senor Blues, and also had the vocal version of it. So, I thought that was it's a great record.
Oh yeah, I heard that vocal version.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I still don't understand the lyrics, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, on it. Show you my copy.
Okay, let's get in it.
I got this at Lunchbox this year, early in the year. I got in the jazz section. There was nothing in the jazz section, but then there was this, and it was marked $20.
Okay.
And so I could tell from the cardstock what it was. I picked it up, went to the counter, and I slapped $20 down and rolled it.
It ran out.
Is that the Lexington? What is it?
Big, the thick, heavy Lexington.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Nice. You know what's cool about that? Because I recently got that too, and I was looking at Lexingtons. Is that Lexington only was around for like a couple years? It was like 55 to like 57 or something. Yeah. And a lot of them were recorded live, or they were recorded at WOR, but that one is recorded at Hackensack. So it's a Hackensack Lexington, which I just think is, that's just the coolest.
Yeah, Felipe, you said it's the last Lexington?
Yes, 1540 is the first. Yeah.
1539 is the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have many Lexingtons. This is one.
Yeah, very cool. $20, man, that's a deal.
That's amazing.
So the band that I was reading the liner notes today from Leonard Feather, and he was saying this band had been playing together for a while, which is cool, right? Like it's the same exact lineup, Felipe, as the Horace Silver you showed, except for Blakey, right? It's Louis Hayes instead of Blakey.
I think Louis Hayes was like 19.
Yeah, he was like 19, and then Doug Watkins was like 22 or something, really young. incredible lineup. I really enjoyed the record.
Great rhythm section.
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
I mean, yeah, they were young, had the fire. You know, they were inspired, playing with a legend. It's the formula for a great record. And then the horn section's top notch.
Yeah, I really thought Donald Byrd kind of stole the record at times for me.
Yeah, and Horace was fine with. He's like someone said earlier. They were fine. He was always fine with letting the horn down.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear that in a lot of his other records too.
Yeah, and if you see his live recordings, he's always very like introducing the band and talking about them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's kind of how Blakey was like that too, though. You know, I mean,
Yeah, Blakey.
Go off. He also tried to get his guys out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was lucky to see Blakey once, you know, with the Messengers, and yeah.
What club was that, Nicole, out there?
It was at a club down there. Mazzy mentioned it in person. It was called Bach Dancing and Dynamite Society down in Half Moon Bay, which is kind of a cool, right along the ocean. And
you gonna get up with Mazzy for a drink here or what? He's down there.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah.
CJ, what are your impressions of this record?
This has for a while been one of my favorite Silver records. But listening through it this week, this like reminded me of like how fun of a player that Horace Silver is. I love his like rhythmic creativity. You know, like, and this record just, I don't know. I feel like I've been neglecting it. I feel like I've been neglecting it, and I honestly feel this is a good place to start for maybe a lot of people. Like, hey, you don't know what jazz is? Listen to this record because it's a shit ton of fun. You know, it's just fun to listen to.
Well, it gets a lot of people, and it would get a lot of people more interested in jazz because it's not it's not challenging.
And I absolutely agree with everyone and the praise for Senior Blues. I think it's a phenomenal song. But the sleeper track for me is that last track on side 1, Enchantment. Oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
Woof.
It's great.
After repeated listenings, I was just like, dude, this track is fire.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Anyway, I like Camouflage too.
What was the last cut on the second side on that?
The last cut on the second side is
Enchantment.
Yeah. That was another one that I
the second side, that's For Heaven's Sake. Yeah, that's a good song.
I do think it's worth noting, and CJ, I feel like you alluded to it, so it kind of reminded me. It's like there's a certain, like revisiting this, I was listening to some other records from the same time period. The style that they were all playing together with Blakey, with Horace Silver, Hank Mobley, like all that early proto jazz messenger stuff, the early 1500s, like that is such a special period that is documented through Blue Note that I feel like is never replicated in their catalog again. And obviously, like the music always evolves, but I feel like when you were saying like this is a great place for somebody to start, I agree with that 100%. It is I love just how they play. It's just stylistically, it is just so good.
It's like a Sidewinder, people, say, people get into jazz, listen to, the Sidewinder.
I would even, Sidewinder, I love the Sidewinder, but I would even put this, like, because it's earlier than that. It's got a different hard bop. It's like I don't know. Maybe they are inventing it. Maybe that's the right word to use. But it's like those guys during that time, that short time period,
right?
It's like incredible what they were doing together. And there's this is one of the records, but there's a bunch of live records like Live at Cafe Bohemia with Blakey. There's so many good ones, and it's like basically nearly the same guys. They're all doing it, and it's got like a special sound that it just I feel like it sparked the rest of what came.
It sounds. I think, Mike, you're right. It sounds like they are still experimenting, discovering, not afraid to try much. And then a few years later, once you have something established, people are just more like following a recipe with slight variations. You know what I mean? It seems like they're having fun doing it, like a discovery kind of process, right?
Yeah.
Because even if his first records, even the label was reluctant. Oh, this is not going to sell. This is not good enough, and they were trying, you know.
And I really liked the piano. It's funny, Leonard Feather said piano solo, but they're not solos. It's piano and and drums.
Drum
song.
Yeah.
That song is beautiful, man. Such a great tune.
Yeah, I agree.
And I guess he wrote that for a lady friend, which is cool.
When I was listening to that, I listened to the OG that I have. I have the same one that you have, Dave, that Lexington that I recently got that I did not get for $20.
I get lucky around here.
But I will. A side note is that I recently have been trying to get into early Blue Notes. I've always ignored it because I thought it was just going to be too expensive. And there's plenty of good reissues from the Black Bees to the classic series to Tone Poets that are affordable and great. But recently, I just feel like I just wanted to have some in my collection so I know what they are. So I started looking at those early ones, and because they press so many of those Horace Silvers, they're expensive, but they're not crazy. They're not like thousands. They're not like $800 records. They're
right.
You can get a decent copy in your collection of Horace Silver because they press so many. So there's that. But,
like Jimmy Smith, he sold records for the label.
And Jimmy Smith, and that's right. Jimmy Smith is even cheaper because, well, I think multiple reasons, but he sold probably even more. And the organ sound, although there's some really good Jimmy Smith records, like A Date with Jimmy Smith. Date with Jimmy Smith has a horn section like Mobley, Bird, and there's another tenor on it that is like incredible. And then Jimmy,
there's Tina Brooks too. The Sermon House Party, those things are amazing.
Yeah, and Jimmy's not like going wild. He's just support. He's like doing support. So like if it's like very kind of like even when it comes to the front line there.
Then you get to the boss.
Who?
Verve or something, and it sounds like the Allman Brothers.
Oh yeah.
All the drugs.
But Chris, I did want to talk about.
I like the Allman Brothers.
I did want to talk about that second track because I felt like I listened to it and I thought it was a solo piano track, and then I'm listening a little deeper and I'm like, oh, there's definitely drums on that. That was when I listened to the first one on my system, and you could hear it. But then I listened to the reissue, that classic series. It's still in the back, but the hi-hat, that delicate hi-hat and delicate drumming that's behind it, it's still behind. I mean, it's behind, but it's like crystal clear. It's like super clear. So that classic series, there's a lot more bass on it because that's on the tape and they didn't cut it like they did on the early.
Right.
And highs, yeah.
But the classics, I mean, compared to that, I mean, they're both good. They're both very good.
Well, who did the classics?
The classic one is definitely great.
Yeah, I have the classic and also the one from Classic Records of that title.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mike, who engineered the classic?
That would be Kevin
Gray. Yeah.
I mean, most Kevin Gray stuff that I have, and I don't have much. The bass is always up. That's just, I think, part of
the bass. Yeah, the bass. But honestly, I feel like it makes it sound modern or something. And like, I realize I'm painting with bigger strokes here, but like, I do feel like it's kind of like a go-to one where it's just like you want to hear the music.
It's terrific. Yeah.
Yeah, it is really good. But I agree. Like when you listen to the old one, it has like a patina to it that makes it sound vintage. That actually is really cool to hear too. So
that's because Rudy cut the bass off. That's why it sounds like
Rudy
that.
cut the bass and boosted at like 100 hertz or something, so it had a punch, or 80 hertz, whatever it was.
That first Blue Note pressing of Cannonball Ladder, at least something else that I picked up a couple months ago.
Okay.
And as soon as at the store I got it at, as soon as they put it on, they had it on in the background. I go, I know that record.
Yeah.
But that sound on original Blue Note was, you could immediately pick it up of how special it is. I said, I got to have that record.
Yeah, no, I would love it. Is it a stereo or mono? I'm sorry if you said that.
Stereo.
Does it have this gold stereo sticker on it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's the one I have. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah. Of course, it cost me $250 to get it, but
yeah. Well, that's a good. If it's in good condition, that's a fair.
Yeah,
price.
it was. Yeah, it was
I have a
VG plus
blue
plus.
that sticker.
Yeah.
Old stereo sticker.
Oh yeah.
CJ, did you want to show something?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
really?
one last point I wanted to make that I thought was interesting is so I recently one of the reasons why we selected this title is I recently picked this up and the guys thought it would be fun for me to kind of show off the Lexington label, but in this kind of like effort of well, one I'll quickly show the title I got.
And to be honest, right, Mike, Among Us, Horace Silver was the first choice, but then people ask for Joe Henderson, and then we start. But I think that would be the first choice.
Yeah, I mean, we want to select titles for Record of the Week that I don't know, that'll basically spark conversation. So we want to make sure people are familiar with it, know about it. But we also do want to, highlight at some point. I mean, we're definitely going to go outside the box too. We're not just going to do 50 stuff. That's for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Felipe will not have that.
Yeah.
But I did want to show this. So this is the first pressing. It only came out in mono. For first pressing. See, there's a little ringware up here. That's okay. That's all right. And then I'll show. So again, I never really was into the early Blue Notes because I just thought they were too expensive, and there was just so much other stuff I wanted to get. And then I recently started diving into it, and this is Lexington. And Lexington, if you can see. On the inner outer edge there,
right
around the deep groove.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Is this the right one? No, I'm showing the wrong freaking record.
I was gonna say it doesn't read Lexington.
Hold on. That's the next record I want to show. Hold on. So there it is. So that's the Lexington. You see how it's like scripted?
Yeah.
So it's Lexington.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's the first pressing of it, and I wanted to have a Lexington Plastilite with all the fancy pressings and stuff in the collection, so I know what it sounds like. And this is from 1956. And then I want to get the next so after like 56 or whatever, and Felipe, correct me if I'm wrong, then they moved to a New York 23 label for West 63rd Street, I think it is.
63rd, 47, yeah.
So that's the one I was just showing, and that is this one. This is the Stylings of Silver. So it's the same group, except they swap out Donald Byrd with Art Farmer on it. So this is a first pressing mono as well. So I got that one and I got this one in, and I'm listening to them. I go, the music is great, but like this one sounds like sonically better. And I go over to our friend Deep Groove Mono's RVG Legacy. So this is Rich Capeless, I think his last name is. And I wanted to quickly show this because this is interesting. So, and I don't want to do a huge deep dive, but this is RVG Legacy. So this is all about Rudy Van Gelder's studio. And if you go to the microphone section, and there might be other sections within the equipment that he catalogs, he says there's an American mic era until 56. And then after 56, they get the Telefunken, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think they get more Telefunkens.
Yeah.
So the reason why I mention that is because I feel like the difference between that 6 pieces of silver and the Stylings of Silver, Rudy did a big upgrade with his microphones and probably other stuff, and you can definitely hear the difference. Like, I can go on and on, but there's a huge difference there.
That's like the darkness that people talk about.
Yeah. Oh, and so a couple of things on that. It's like, so Telefunkens, they're one of the best and most sought after tubes existed. They are some of the most expensive tubes you can get nowadays. The tubes. Yeah. Okay, if you want to get Telefunkens for a stereo, good luck. It's going to be $1,000 a tube.
Yeah.
It's
like getting Western Electrics.
Yes. Plus, one thing to take into consideration, the electric and the magnetic field and streams back in those days are much cleaner than now. There's so much signal, so much stuff going on electrically and magnetically. Even people replicate those mics now that they cannot get the same sound. It's virtually impossible.
Yeah.
Also because of that.
And that's not to deter anybody from going to this record because it sounds great. And the classic series is an excellent, reissue. But there is a noticeable difference between this one and then his next one. And the next one sounds even better. It's incredible.
Yeah. Stylings of Silver is a fantastic record.
He was always trying to improve.
Yeah. And there's other early I have the JJ Johnson. I just recently got the JJ Johnson Volume 1, which side 2 of that is an old 10-inch that was a Hackensack. And it sounds really good, but again,
it's green cover, Mike.
It's the red cover.
Yeah.
They reissued it recently.
And also on silver, there's a great early tone poet, Explorations, right? That's the name of it.
Yes.
That record is terrific. Has a really good rhythm section there. Some notes with piano and drums and bass going. Especially on the first track, which reminds me a little bit of Inventions and Dimensions. That same type of playing, that scheme there.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic tone poet. People should definitely check it out.
Yeah. But
do we know when the next one? The I can't remember what's the other one that's coming out soon, Felipe?
What is
classic?
that?
Silver Serenade, which is a phenomenal. I think that one's a 4100, if I'm not mistaken.
So is that the Junior Cook Billy Mitchell one?
Yes. Silver Serenade. I think it's a 61 record. 61,
yeah.
It's really good. That tone poet won't disappoint. The OG already sounds great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
Lexington, when you pick it up, doesn't it just feel different?
It's wonderful. It's just the real deal. And like
I know, it's like Ken McAuliffe talks about the old.
I know. That's what I mean. I don't want to discourage people. Like when I say like the classic series sounds better, I mean that's not the right way to talk about it. I feel like it sounds more, it sounds great. Like that probably would be
it's relaying the information in a better way.
But there's also, and this is a total personal thing, but like playing a record from 1956 that sounds. The other thing is like I have early Prestige, early Riverside, early Contemporary records, and they all sound very good. These Plastilite Blue Notes, holy smokes! I can see why it's not just the music. Like these records sound incredible, and then on top, and then when you do the modern thing with these Ampex tapes that Kevin Gray gets, and he makes them even. He reveals even more from them and makes them.
Those aren't Ampex tapes.
What do they use?
Scotch back then.
Oh yeah, Scotch 112.
Scotch 911.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Scott. Oh, okay. All right. I'm just making up numbers now. Anyway, cut this part out.
You keep on repeating that 1956, and I keep on saying, I go, shit, I was 4 years old when that record came out. Like,
but anyway, the last thing I want to say is that I feel like diving into these early pressings and this time period and earlier pressings, like I've been listening to a lot of the like WOR pressings that Blue Note did, these early these super early Van Gelder Hackensack and a little later Hackensack, and you can see the progression of sound. Like you could hear it. You could hear the progression of sound, and it's just incredible. It's really been a fun part of the listening experience to like think about this, and it's just fun.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
All right, so guys, any final thoughts? I know I kind of bogarted some of that conversation.
Yeah, that was good. That was great.
Yeah.
Right from the cover art all the way through. This is just
a
fantastic LP. I mean, this is definitely one to put your hands on, especially like Mike talked about. It's not crazy to get a hold of an original.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Try not to dance,
That's hard.
Yeah. That's true.
I was grading papers, and I was finding it hard not to tap my foot or keep my head going like this, and I was like, oh, geez.
It is pretty cool, yeah. It is really cool.
My final thought is I'm really enjoying doing these records of the week because I'm really focusing on the record. Like I got this when the classic series came out 2 years ago or whatever. I listened to it twice and filed it away. I was like, yeah, it's cool. But it's really nice to really dig in and try to listen closely because you're going to talk about it, and you want to convey what your feelings are about the record. So fun.
Well, it's also fun just knowing that other people are listening to it too. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool, and even better that you were here this week, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean I was here last week too?
Was it? Oh no, you had the internet issue, right?
All right.
Oh no, you were here.
I had it this week.
Whatever. I'm sorry.
I'll cut this part out, but anyway, go ahead and roll us out, Mike.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for sticking around. This was really fun. Really great to deep dive into this era of Blue Note. We're going to pick the next title. So remember to join the Discord so you can get up to speed on what that will be. And we'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.
Thanks, everybody. And cut.